This is the vegetable capital of the world for the winter production, and that 90% of our winter leafy vegetables, being the lettuce type items, come from Yuma, Arizona. This crop we're looking at here is Bok Choy. We're coming to the end of the season, so I want to start making excuses for some of my fields are starting to look a little raggedy, but it's warm. This is towards the end. You can see some of the plants are going we call it going to seed. Off to this side, we've got some radishes growing over here. This is the last of our radish crop here. I don't know if you can see those, the way they pull. Mostly these will be mechanically harvested, and yeah, these are nice radishes. I've been here for 26 years now, and I've come to appreciate Yuma, and it's I like to say it's kind of a convergence of water, weather, soil, people. You put all these things together, and this is what we get basically. A winter vegetable factory here is what we have. In 2012, the sale of leafy green vegetables was somewhere between 1.1 and 1.2 billion. The aggregate total of the ancillary businesses that go on in addition to the farm, to the actual farm, is projected to be over $3 billion. What you're looking at right there is the lettuce crop that's being harvested right now. That was planted sometime around the first of the year, and it's finishing, and this is sort of the finish of our lettuce season. Right now, these people will probably harvest here for another week, and then the transition will start to up north. And on this side of the road, this was being harvested last week, and as you can see now that this field's been tilled. We call it working the ground. It's been worked and relisted back up and into beds, and they've planted cotton. I wasn't quite sure what was here, but when I dig around, you can find the cotton seed in here. That's a little purple seed right here, and you can see those sitting right here. That's cotton, and in fact, the irrigators look like the irrigators here have prepared the field for water, and I would guess within a few hours there'll be water in here, and the germ water, and it'll soak up, and within 2 weeks there'll be cotton plants right here, and that cycle starts all over again, and this cotton will be harvested probably sometime in September. Irrigation is everything. Our germination water, we start the seed, it usually comes from sprinklers that we pressurize the water. After that, we'll be running furrow water or flood water that's just controlled out of the dishes and delivered out of the main canals. So it's all about the irrigation. That's what keeps this place going. The water comes from the Colorado River system, starting from Glen Canyon Dam all the way down to Laguna Dam, which is down at our end. There's 5 or 6 dams in between there, and Hoover that backs up Lake Mead, Parker backs up Lake Havasu, the Glen Canyon Dam backs up Lake Powell. Our siphon system that brings the water underneath the Colorado River. That's one of the things here that's really an engineering marvel that was done in 1912. That they dug a 6-foot siphon. When I say a siphon, it's just a big cement-lined hole that went completely under the Colorado River, delivering water from one side of the river to the other side, and allowed the lower Yuma Valley to be irrigated by that. And that was put in 1912. And also the lower Laguna Dam was went in then. Before that, this process of flooding and drought was what took place down here, and it was very difficult to get any security. You had no water, or you were being washed out. So once the dams were put in and the river was basically semi-controlled, it was capable then that the agriculture could be more consistent. We get very little rain. I think our average rainfall here is somewhere between 2 and 3 inches a year, and there'll be some years when we get 5 or 6, and there'll be some years when we get 0. So in fact, rainfall sort of messes us up. We can control irrigation and get what we want out of an irrigation. When the rainfall comes, we get all messed up. We don't handle rain very well. In fact, this area is very flat, so a ½ inch of rain here really wreaks havoc on us. This is a Sudan Field, and it's probably been in the ground about 3 weeks now. And in fact, it had a germination water where it was flooded the first time, and this is its first irrigation coming in here. This is reason I stopped to look at this. This is an example of one type of irrigation here. This is flood irrigation, and you can see there's a border over there. The water comes in from in this case, that's the north end, and it's pushed across here. This field is dead level. It's the same height at this end as it is at the other. So the water pushes across, And irrigator, whoever's out here watching the water, when that water gets close to being here at the end, he just cuts it off, and there's no runoff. And it's one of the examples of Yuma, and one of the things that we do to conserve water and not to waste water. But there's very little runoff from this area, because we've leveled ourselves, lasered and satellite leveled ourselves to dead level falls, so that we don't get the water runoff in this area. Right now, we're worried about the water content. We're also worried about our workforce. We are watching the immigration debate with much concern. I think it's like Senator McCain said. I heard a quote from him, and he said, "Nobody is going to be happy with what we come up with." And I would agree with that. It's such a complex issue, and everybody's got their opinion on it. The one thing I can say about Yuma agriculture is that we agree on is that we need a dependable legal workforce. That's what, of all the other things that go on, I could sit here and talk to you for an hour about what we need and what will work for us, but what we need is a dependable legal workforce. One of the things in the Yuma area that we've been talking about is many of these people would just as soon go home at night. They live in Yuma, Arizona, and they could, if they are legal to come, they could go and come, you know, and live in Mexico and commute back here during the day. That's something that we're personally in this area, and something that's unique to a town or an area that's that close to the border. We're hoping that we can get something like that in there, but those are things, everybody's got their little wish list, and those are the things that have stopped this thing from happening for the last 8 years. So I think everybody's kind of come to the conclusion that, hey, we've got to get something done. Worst case scenario would be that nothing has happened, that they don't allow us a suitable guest worker program. That's worst case scenario. And I'm not talking about just here, I'm talking about the United States. Actually, Yuma's in fairly good shape. When we do our surveys, we have a very high percentage of a legal workforce here, just because our proximity to the border and people that have lived here locally. We have a high percentage of documented workers. Depending on any given year, we're a couple thousand acres of vegetables that we have. I would be considered a small farmer. I'd be considered small in the big picture. We're all in partnerships with other people. I happen to be a grower. Sometimes people think in terms of a farmer, putting that seed in the ground and then delivering that product to the grocery store somewhere. That's not really how it happens here. I do the growing end of it. I'm contracted by major shippers, and I work with 4 or 5 different major shippers that do the sales. They do the harvest, and they actually sell it to chain stores, to the Walmarts and the Krogers and those people of the world. So, and we're in partnership with them, different partnerships with different people. It is a pressure-packed industry. It's big companies now, big demands. We've had a consolidation of buyers. Walmart is the big guy on the block, so everybody has to try to cater to what their needs are, and when they demand something or need something, we try our best to provide it. So one of the biggest changes that we've had here in the last, say, 5 years, I would say, is our food safety programs. This is something that dates back to the spinach problem we had. You just can't have that. You can't have your customers, not feeling that their food supply, what we're giving them, isn't safe. We've actually initiated well, it's called the Leafy Greens Marketing Agreement. And there's a California Leafy Greens Marketing Agreement, and there's a Arizona and we say Leafy Greens Market. It's agreement in that we are bound to meeting certain food safety metrics in the field. And I mean, it's a list of things that we do, from sanitizing field machines and harvest machines and training people, and the fact that we're not in the field. If we get in that field, I've got to put a hairnet on, and I've got to get a hairnet on you and sign in with the crew and the whole thing. In addition to working out here and making a living and doing business, we as farmers have a sense of responsibility and a sense of pride in that we are providing food to the nation. And we think that that's very important, that the country should be self-sufficient. It's one thing to be worrying about oil production and being self-sufficient. To sit there and have to worry about your food supply, that's a whole different story.